Samantha Jordan stepped into the meeting hall, ready to unveil a $300 million federal initiative that could transform the direction of this firm. But before she could utter a single word, she was cast aside, dismissed by a front desk clerk who assumed she didn't belong. No one bothered to ask her name, no one checked her credentials or appointment. All judgments were made from a glance, based only on how she looked. What they didn't realize was that the woman they had ignored would soon be the catalyst for their downfall. This is Real Accounts Reimagined, and today's story will challenge your idea of who holds power, and how fast that power can slip through the cracks. Samantha didn't enter Whitmore Consulting to just make a pitch. She came to remind them what happens when arrogance clouds judgment. Stay with us. What unfolds next will leave you speechless. This is a story about drive, discrimination, and the cost of misjudging the wrong person. If you're ready to watch justice take an unexpected form, hit subscribe and let's get into it. You're about to witness a turn that nobody could have predicted. As Samantha stepped into the polished atrium of Whitmore Consulting, the quiet tap of her heels echoed against the stone floor. But it was the cold reception that truly stood out. She recognized the game instantly. She'd been through it before. Only this time, she wasn't here to seek approval. She was here to reveal the consequences of their narrow thinking. No one spared her a glance. Not the receptionist, who barely looked up. Not the junior staffer who snickered under his breath as she passed. No questions asked, no interest shown. It wasn't her qualifications they doubted. It was her very presence. Samantha offered a calm smile as the receptionist, Melinda, finally raised her eyes, just enough to confirm she wasn't a lost visitor. "Good morning. I have a 10 a.m. meeting with Mr. Peterson." Melinda blinked. "Peterson? Daniel Peterson?" she asked like it couldn't be real. Samantha nodded confidently. "Yes, Samantha Jordan." There was a pause, then a forced smile, followed by a vague motion toward the waiting area. Melinda didn't even acknowledge the confirmed appointment. Email in Samantha's hand, so she sat, graceful, composed, as the hushed voices started. Whispers about her outfit, her look, how she didn't fit in. But Samantha remained still. She didn't need to prove she belonged. She already did. Their opinions were irrelevant. Their loss was already underway. With poise, she reviewed her material. Everything was flawlessly prepared. Every document, every insight, a glimpse into the future they were too blind to see. When Mr. Peterson finally arrived, the mood shifted instantly. Samantha stood to greet him. "Ms. Jordan," he beamed, extending a warm hand. The receptionist froze. Her face drained as realization hit. She had just brushed off the person her company desperately needed. "My apologies," Peterson said, gesturing for Samantha to join him. "My team wasn't informed you'd already arrived," Nathan said, trying to smooth over the awkwardness. Samantha gave him a calm smile. "No worries at all," she replied. "I'm quite used to being unseen." As they walked together down the hallway, the mood around them shifted. She wasn't there to explain herself. She was there to make them understand why she mattered. Upstairs, Samantha was escorted into a modest office space, clearly not the main decision room. The furnishings were dated, and the space felt more like an intake area than a place where serious deals were closed. She didn't comment. She simply observed. She had experienced this type of passive resistance before. It was never meant to stop her, just to remind her of the boundaries she was expected to accept, but Samantha never did. As time passed, she realized something important. This wasn't just about securing funding. It was a silent evaluation. And they were revealing more about themselves than they knew. When she was finally led into the real conference room, she felt it instantly, the shift, the discomfort. Mr. Peterson welcomed her again, but this time there was a stiffness in his tone. He had figured it out, but too late. The impact of her presence was already undeniable. "Let's begin," Samantha said. And for the next hour, she delivered her presentation with precision. Every chart supported by verified data. Every projection grounded in active initiatives. This wasn't some theory. The Blue Grid program was already backed by the government. $300 million in federal support was already secured. And yet, despite the evidence in front of them, Samantha could feel it. The unspoken pushback. They weren't questioning her numbers. They were questioning her. She didn't match the image they had in mind. She wasn't part of their traditional mold, but she knew. This wasn't new. This wasn't about the pitch. The real decision would come after the meeting. As she approached the final segment, she noticed the unrest in the room. Some nodded slowly. Others drifted into silence. And just as she prepared to make her closing point, the session coordinator cut in. "We'll need to stop here. Another group is waiting for this room." Samantha checked the time. 11:22. Her slot ran until 11:30, but that didn't matter to them. Their agenda had little to do with schedules and everything to do with silent judgments. Still, she didn't flinch. "If I may have just 5 more minutes," she said calmly, "I can show you how this isn't just about projections. This is about reshaping our infrastructure. This is about the country's next step." Gerald Winters, the CFO, leaned forward, his voice tight with doubt. "I think we get the idea, Ms. Jordan. Lots of stats, bold promises. But what if this doesn't survive the reality of politics?" Samantha didn't blink. She had faced this kind of doubt her whole life. "This isn't a sales pitch," she answered. "This is a commitment, and Washington has already committed. The only question is whether you'll move forward or be left behind." The atmosphere grew tense. Eyes shifted. Some looked down, others straight at her. And just when she thought the silence would take over, the screen went dark. The projector shut off. The meeting was over. With calm grace, Samantha packed her materials. Before stepping out, she turned to Gerald. "Don't take it personally. You'll notice the impact in next quarter's revenue report," Samantha said with calm precision. "It's part of a federal strategic grant program." As she exited the room, she felt the weight of their dismissal. But she wasn't shaken. This was far from over. The real battle had just begun. She took a seat in the downstairs lounge, where the silence was louder than any insult. Samantha didn't crave validation. She had already set her plan in motion. The rejection came later that day, dressed in courtesy, wrapped in vague wording. No real reason, just a sterile sentence meant to push her aside, but Samantha was ready. At exactly 12:06 p.m., she fired off an email to the entire selection panel. Subject line, Samantha Jordan. Recommendation, do not proceed. But this wasn't a defeat. It was the trigger. What happened next would flip the entire narrative. Samantha had anticipated this move. She knew this wasn't about one project. It was about proving a point, about showing what happens when quiet resolve is underestimated. When someone is dismissed simply for not fitting the mold. The very next morning, she returned to Whitmore Consulting. Not as a hopeful applicant, but as an official federal liaison. She walked through the same front doors, past the same desk, where the receptionist's expression froze in disbelief. She wasn't there to ask for a chance. She was there to deliver consequences. This time, the meeting room wasn't filled with skeptics. It was filled with stakeholders, and Samantha was holding the final card. By the end of that day, Whitmore Consulting was disqualified from the Blue Grid initiative. A federal audit had been triggered. The boardroom would soon answer for their actions. Samantha hadn't come seeking approval. She came to make them feel the cost of their own bias. And as the CEO sat speechless, surrounded by stunned executives, she walked away with everything they thought she didn't deserve. The meeting wasn't a loss. It was their turning point. A missed $300 million opportunity that slipped through their hands because they couldn't see past their assumptions. Samantha's once dismissed presence had become the very reason their foundation crumbled. The same people who had questioned her legitimacy now faced not only the loss of a contract, but the blow to their reputation that followed. She didn't need to shout. She never raised her voice. Her calm persistence had done all the talking.
She had become the storm they never saw coming. And this wasn't just about one deal. It was about how high a company can rise before its prejudice drags it back down. Those executives who once called her too bold now sat around an empty table, their egos shattered, their project gone.
But Samantha didn't gloat. She didn't have to. True power isn't loud. It's undeniable. It's in being seen, despite every attempt to make you invisible. This wasn't just her win. It was a warning. Never judge someone by their cover. The consequences may cost you everything. If Samantha's journey struck a chord with you, like, share, and subscribe to Everyday Justice Stories. Help us reach 10,000 voices strong and keep spreading stories that matter.